What's up, everybody? And today we are going over our hopes and our predictions for the Halo Infinite story. I'm joined by Mark, as I was in Halo 5. Say hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
We just finished Halo 5 yesterday, which is perfect timing because I started the road to Halo Infinite over a year ago, and it finishes 2 days before the game comes out, which I think is very good timing and was not planned in any way. So yeah, we were all prepped for Halo Infinite. Tomorrow, I have decided, which actually, Mark, this is the first time I'm telling you, I'm actually going to go live during my first playthrough of Halo Infinite.
Nice.
A lot of people worried that I'm going to get distracted while I'm playing it. The plan is to go live, address the audience before I start playing the game, and then not talk to the audience until I finished the live stream, like at the end of the gameplay live stream. And the reason being is I want to be fully immersed, but at the same time I want people to see a genuine live reaction from me. Okay.
Yes.
Because this is my most anticipated game of the year. I've been very excited for this for a long time now. So I think it's good to go live. So that I'm just addressing that before we get started. But before we do get started as well, my merch is available. Go check out my merch. Link down below. There's very limited stock. There's a sweatshirt. That was the hat right there. Highly recommend you go check it out. There's very limited stock, and if you do order something, you get a private video sent to you by me, which is really cool. I get to record it on my phone and send it to you directly through email. So definitely go and check that out. Link down below. So Mark.
Yes.
I want to start with our hopes for Halo Infinite. What are our hopes for the story? We're talking only story here. We know the gameplay is good because we were playing it in multiplayer, right? We know it's going to be good. The level designs, we've seen little clips in the trailers. The level design looks great. We're not going to get into that because that's not something we can really predict. But story, we can. So, let's start with you. What's your number one hope? Oh, well, let's start from the bottom, and we'll go like you do one, then I do one, then you do one. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. I'll
save
my big one for last. Though.
Okay, you go first.
Okay, so this is just kind of a small one for me, but I hope that they continue the trend of having like those extra collectibles or scannables that give you a little bit extra like lore story. So either like the terminals returning from Halo 3 or like the datapad scanning from Halo 5. I kind of hope that stays or comes back in a different fashion, but still gives us that extra story.
Yeah, I agree. I really hope that there is some sort of thing that we can go around and collect outside of the main story, right? Like something that gives us lore, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. I actually like that one a lot, and I'd be very disappointed if they don't do something like that, because I feel like they've done it in pretty much every single Halo now, right?
Yep, every single Halo, including Halo Wars.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I don't know that. Which brings me perfectly onto my first hope, is that they don't ignore Halo 4, Halo 5, and both Halo Wars games. And I hope that even though the story is a little bit misty, like it's a bit weird, the story, and goes in very strange directions, and the Halo 5 especially has a lot of loose ends. I'm hoping they do address it, and they don't just ignore it just to tell a simpler story. I'm hoping that it doesn't have the Game of Thrones factor where there's so many loose ends, trying to fix it at the very end ruins it. I hope it doesn't do that. I hope it's very much like it is its own story. It is, decent for new players, but at the same time, if you are a long-term fan, you've played all the games, it addresses what's gone on in Halo 4 and 5 and kind of, fixes some of the plot holes. And Halo Wars 1 and 2. I hope, especially Halo Wars 2, that we get something on that.
Yep. I think that with kind of the hole they dug themselves into with how, I don't want to say bad the storytelling was in Halo 5, but how different and scattered it was. I think that it's going to be a tough thing for them to do with Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I'm expecting some things to be answered, but I think we might have to wait for the next installment or DLC to get a lot more answers. And that also ties into my second one, which is either I want them to either have an appearance or mention of Atriox, Spirit of Fire, Professor Anders, because the ending of Halo Wars 2, which happens a few months after Halo 5, it kind of has a big thing to do with how the Banished are on Zeta Halo, and how the main enemy we're fighting is Atriox's mentor. So I really hope that they mention Atriox at some point.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. That's actually one of my story guesses, but we'll get into that later. I think, again, like I just said, ignoring Halo Wars 2 would be a tragedy at this point because it's got the Banished in it, right? So they definitely have to link it somehow, and I think they will. But I'll get on to my prediction on that a little bit later. Number 4 for me, for my hope, is that we hear or see something to do with Blue Team. I love Blue Team. I think they're like, as a cohesive group, I think it's really cool. It's really cool, especially someone who's been in the military and having that fire team. It's really, really cool to see that. And from all the trailers, he's alone. Apart from the pilot and the weapon, he's alone. So I'm hoping we see something to do with Blue Team. And the reason I say that is I want them to make the co-op like plausible. And I'm worried that if they do the co-op, it'll end up being like 3 chiefs running around. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want them to go as far as what they did with Halo 5, where you have to play as a team all the time. But at the same time, it makes sense to have that team about. So I want them to address that, and I hope that if they're not in the game, they kind of address where they are at least, right? And what they're doing.
I think that's gonna be what the co-op is gonna be when that launches in May. I think that there's gonna be kind of a silence from Blue Team in the story at the moment, but when co-op launches in May, I think that it's meant to be that like they're still all together. Just maybe in the wreckage of the fight that happens before we land on Zeta Halo, we kind of just get separated, and then. Like it's supposed to be we're all together right now, but it's going to take until May for them to like just actually implement it into the campaign.
I hope that's true.
I really enjoyed how they did the Halo 5 co-op in the aspect that you could choose which character that you want to play as, which changed, at the very least, changed like the weapons that you had available right at the start of the mission. Plus like all the different dialogue and stuff where you can do like certain events with certain characters and have different lines of dialogue. And, I think that was a really good thing. And the only thing that I have to complain about that is from a game design aspect, it's got to be difficult to balance a game that's supposed to be played as co-op, but you still want to have it to be able to play it in single player, but it makes it harder because you're supposed to be working as a team. So playing it alone is going to be a little bit more difficult, I think. Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes total sense to me. I feel like it'll be a bit strange with cutscenes, especially if there's only one. But they're taking the time. They're waiting until May. So I think you're right. I think they'll implement it where I think from the trailer we kind of know that pilot guy finds the chief floating in space after a battle. That's kind of the gist we get from the trailer. And I'm hoping that, you know, when we go into that co-op, they find both, like 2 people or 3 people. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't think they'll necessarily show that in the cinematics, like in the cutscenes. But I think they need to have some sort of hint in the gameplay cutscenes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
And I hope that's why they're taking the time until May. So moving on to what's your next hope?
Yep, so this is my last one because I could have only come up with 3.
Okay.
But my number 1 hope is that they either resolve or continue with the Cortana storyline, because as much as people didn't like what 343 did with her arc in Halo 5, they're kind of stuck with it now, but like I don't want them to just
ignore
it and end it in a way that's not satisfying to what they've already started. I really, really hope that Cortana continues to play like a huge role in the story, because you can't have Halo without both John and Cortana.
I agree.
It would feel super weird.
I agree, and that's why exactly I put don't ignore Halo 4 and 5. Like they have to address where she is, what she's doing, and I think they're gonna do that because the weapons already mentioned her, and the weapons. Like I feel like Chief's main goal in this game is gonna be to find Cortana. But in fact, we'll get onto that with story guesses, because I have quite a bit of that with the story guesses. I have quite a bit of opinion on the Cortana story, but I think you're right. I do hope we do see more of that story, and that they just don't ignore it, right? Like they can't just ignore it and move on, because it changed the whole universe of Halo, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So
it did.
okay, so I'll go through my my last three hopes, which are a little small, and we can explain them pretty well. One of them is that I hope we see the Flood. I don't know whether we'll see it in the main story, but I think we'll see it in DLC at least. But I do hope we see the Flood. I mean, we've had, like, the Flood has been such a major part of the story. It would be kind of, I don't know, sad.
Almost empty.
Almost empty without the Flood, right? So I feel like we might not see it, but it's got to be an important part to the story. Yeah. There's a reason why the Banished runs Zeta Halo, and whether it's the Flood, whether it's Primordials or the Forerunners, we need to know what it is, and I hope there's some Flood element in there.
There's actually a perfect way that they could introduce it as well, because even if since the Zeta Halo is technically like a new Halo ring, the Flood wouldn't exist on it already, right. But with Atriox having the portal to the Ark, if he has like a lich or like something that small that could even go through, if a single Flood spore is on a ship that goes to that portal, that could easily introduce the Flood to the Zeta Halo ring.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it would be good in the story, but I also don't want the story to be too complex like Halo 5. If they left it to DLC and they were like, we're doing a dedicated Flood DLC, I am all for that. I would be over the moon with that. Release it at the same time as co-op as well.
Ooh, yes.
That would be good and would get a lot of people playing the campaign again. Which actually I think sets perfect up to my next hope, which is I hope they set up for future Halos. I feel like Halo 5 did it a bit too much, where it was like, you know, kind of like Halo 2, where it's like, you have to play the next one. Please let me play that. I want to know what's going on. But I want it to be like, you know, I want Halo Infinite to be like the next generation. So like the first trilogy, like generation 1 of Halo, Halo 4, 5, and Halo Wars 2. It's kind of like generation 2. I want this to be generation 3 of Halo. Like, I want them to turn around and be like, this is where the story's going. It's obvious that there's going to be more story, and it might not be, you know, Halo Infinite 2, but it'll be DLC. It'll be the next Halo 7. It'll be, do you know what I mean? Like, I want it to kind of set up this universe to make more, like, to make more cohesive sense, to make more games, right? Not just try and have that. There's that God sense of games, right? Where like you watch like Dragon Ball Z. He kills Frieza. He was the ultimate person, and then Cell comes along, and he's the ultimate, and then Majin Buu comes around, and he's the ultimate, and it's like, all right, you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, and they're just stronger, and he gets up again. I don't want the story to get too bland like that. I want it to have a new purpose, and I think the answer to that is the Cortana thing, and introducing new elements of the lore, like, leads me perfectly into my last hope, is the Primordials. I hope we get info on the Primordials. I know this is very deep lore, but as someone who's now been looking at a lot of the deep lore, I think it would be nice just to, even if it's in the logs in the game, if there is any, or if there's any of them, like they're not logs, they're like
scannables, collectibles,
and stuff. Give me some info on the Primordials. We're on Zeta Halo,
and again,
you know what I mean?
You can trace this back to Cortana, because she's in the domain, which is the Forerunners, like basically galaxy-wide intranet, if you will. Yeah. So like, if any Forerunner information contains information on the Primordials and the precursors, not the Primordials. I think that could come to light in the collectibles. I don't think it would play a part in the main storyline unless we needed to get some kind of precursor technology to do something. But yeah, and then also back to what you were saying about doing like new Halo games and stuff. I can't remember if this memory is correct, but when they first announced Halo Infinite E3, like I can't remember what year it was like 18, 19, something like that. I thought I remember them talking about a new trilogy of Halo games starting with Halo Infinite.
Ooh.
So I don't know if this memory is correct. I could just be crazy. But I think that we will get a trilogy, and this will be kind of like the ending of the like 20-year journey for Halo, or 25 years, however long it takes them to get these last two games out. Because as much as I love Halo, I think you can get too much of a game at some point and stretch the story too far. Just looking at like games that come out every year, like Call of Duty.
I agree.
Yeah, so I really think that if they could give a nice ending at the end of this trilogy, I'd be happy with Halo retiring.
Yeah, I would, or at least Master Chief retiring, right? And having like a new Spartan step up or something. Maybe we go back in time or something like that.
It's like the Forerunners. Like just do like a Halo Forerunner game where you play during the Forerunner Human War, or the Forerunner Flood War.
Yeah. I mean, we can see from the trailers the Chief is getting tired. He's tired of this shit now.
Well, he's also he's getting old.
He's getting old.
It's 2060. And if I remember correctly, he was born in like 2506, I think.
Yeah.
So he's like in his 50s right now.
Yeah.
And even with like all the augments and everything, he's an old man.
He's getting on. Yeah, I think this trilogy would be if it is a trilogy, like you said, I think it would be perfect to wrap up the Chief and Cortana story, which is what the whole Halo franchise is about, really. And I think it would be wise to keep the Halo franchise going, like by all means, but set up a new story, set up a new, maybe the start of this Halo Infinite multiplayer where you're playing as your own Spartan, blah blah blah. Maybe that's the future of Halo. And the Chief kind of has a setback role. Maybe he dies at the end of the trap. Either way, I think that would be a good ending. Like sometimes like a sad ending is a good ending as well. But it would, I think, setting up for the future of Halo is vital. And I think the Primordials do play a big part in that. We're on Zeta Halo, right? Like this is the place where, isn't this the place where Mendicant Bias and the Primordial like had a conversation and he convinced Mendicant Bias to side with the Flood? I think it was
that
there.
On Installation 07?
Was it not?
It could be. I can't remember. And I was a little off on Chief's age, by the way. He was born in 2511, so he's 49 at the start of this game.
49, still pretty old. Either way, like so not ignoring the previous games, especially the ones by 343. Some blue teams, some flawed, set up future franchises for Halo, and a little bit of info on the Primordials, probably through logs and stuff like that. That's my hopes for the story. Recap yours fully, real quick again. Your 3 hopes.
Yep. So mine was resolving the Cortana storyline. I want that to continue. Just have them still be like the iconic duo, and then just kind of at the end of wherever Halo Infinite's going, whether it's two more games or just a couple DLC. I just want them to end it together. Then I want the mention of like the Halo Wars characters, because they play a very important role, the Banished storyline, and then the collectibles and scannables.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think it's a good place to start having our predictions for the story. What do we actually think is going to happen in the story? I've got 5. How many have you got?
I kind of just wrote like a small paragraph of like the entirety of the game in like a small nutshell.
You tell me your paragraph first, and then we'll go through my 5. How about that?
Okay, sounds good. So I think we open up with like a brief like cutscene about what happens with Chief just before the pilot finds him out in space. So like
the battle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think after that it just throws you right into the Halo ring. And we start solely just fighting the Banished to try to get some modicum of control back for the UNSC.
Okay.
After a little bit of time, I'm thinking like halfway through the campaign, that's when the Harbinger is going to show up. And I think also that's when we're going to start finding clues to Cortana as well. So at the same time, we're going to have a fight on 3 fronts. We're going to have the Banished that are still trying to push us back. The Harbinger is going to try to stop us from continuing any further into the ring. And I think Cortana might have like some defense to protect what she has planned for the future, because obviously at this point I don't know if the Guardians are still in play, but we might find a weakness in the Guardians, which I think is where the Infinite storyline will kind of end or have to wait for a DLC to continue. I think that the Infinity shows up right at the very end. John gives intel and we just go end
Zoom
the
off
game
into
with
space.
zooming off into slip space or something to go where Chief needs to go to continue his fight with Cortana.
I think that would be great. That would be perfect, in my opinion.
Yep.
Or close to perfect.
So that's like the briefest way I think that this game's gonna go.
That sounds great to me, and I think you've probably hit the nail on the head for quite a few points there that I agree with. I've got a few kind of they're not the my story guesses, but they're just plot points. They're not like the overarching story. So I think at the end of this game, I think the Weapon and Chief will end up being like best friends. I think they're going to go through highs and lows. I don't think she's going to... A lot of people are like, oh, what happens if the Weapon is actually just Cortana? And I don't think that's the case. I think the Weapon is her own AI. Like, she is her own AI. I think she's got an actual name that we're going to get in the game. And I think they're going to end up being, at the end of the game, like, very close. Like, I think they're going to go through some shit together. And I think they'll end up being very close. And I think she'll stick with him through this game the whole way. It wouldn't surprise me if at the end she sacrifices herself in some way, but I feel like she's going to still be around for the future of Halo.
Yeah.
That's my number 5.
Yeah. I think for the Weapon, like, they could do a lot of interesting things with her, because if she was built the same way Cortana was, from a scan of one of Dr. Halsey's cloned, like, brains, she's essentially Cortana, but Halsey could have, like, included more code in her programming that made her
even stronger,
but not as much free will. Like, she's like strictly down to her code, which is kind of what we see in the initial cutscene where we saw her for the first time. It's like, I'm supposed to capture Cortana and then do auto deletion, and then my job's done. But wait, I'm still here, so something's wrong.
very reminiscent of Mendicant Bias and what was the one that was made to fight it? There was another AI that was meant to fight Mendicant Bias in the lore.
Yep. Go with your next thing. I'll look up the name real quick, because I'm also...
Well, my number 4 is pretty simple, and we've pretty much gone over it already. I think the story's going to end with a cliffhanger. Again, not a big cliffhanger, but I think it's going to end with something like, all right, I'm ready for the next part, the next DLC, the next game, or whatever. I genuinely think that's going to happen. I'd be very surprised if they wrap this up with a nice little neat bow, and then we don't know what's going on in the next game, because that's what Halo's all about, right? It does this every single time. My number 3 as well, we've kind of already mentioned... we'll get a mention of the Spirit of Fire. It'd be stupid not to get a mention of Spirit. USNC Infinity, it's obvious that's going to be an important part of the story. Like, where is it? What's it doing? Where are they? Why are they not around? Why is the Chief there and there, wherever? We're going to find that out, I think, whether it's in this game or the DLC, but we're going to find it out. The Spirit of Fire, we have, like, I genuinely think we will, because... It's a massive part of the Banished, right? Again, you've just said it. Like, the Banished and Spirit of Fire and Halo Wars 2 are very much intertwined, and I genuinely think we will get info on the Spirit of Fire. Did you find out the name?
Super cool. Yeah, it's Offensive Bias.
Offensive Bias. I think it's very reminiscent. I think Cortana and the Weapon are very reminiscent of Mendicant Bias and Offensive Bias. I think they are.
Yeah, it's almost like history repeating itself at this point.
As it always does, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we'll get mention of Spirit of Fire. I think this is a good one, I think at some point in the game, you won't see it physically because AI don't fight, but the Cortana and the Weapon will fight. And it'll be in some sort of, like, kind of behind the scenes, like, you'll hear her struggling and, trying to, like, outmaneuver Cortana or something. I think near the end of the game we're going to get something like that, and I think it would be really, really cool to see the Weapon and Cortana really, like, playing a chess game going at it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and Cortana, I think too, I just thought of this, it's like Cortana's evolved past just being a smart AI at this point.
Yeah,
even though that the Cortana we have here is just based on one of her rampant personalities that we saw in Halo 4 kind of branch off of her. I think that when she sees John with the Weapon, there's going to just be insane jealousy that just motivates her to try to take out the Weapon.
I agree, and I think there'll be some sort of fight going on there. I don't, like I said, I don't think we'll see fists being thrown because they're AI. But I think like behind the scenes they'll be playing some sort of chess game trying to outmaneuver each other, which I think will be brilliant. Like you're fighting the Banished or something while them two are just like opening doors and closing doors around you, like trying to like. That'd be amazing.
That sounds great. Oh, I hope that happens.
I do as well. I think it's gonna happen. I really do. Like, why set up a new AI without having them have a bit of a scrap, you know?
Yeah.
And my last story guess, which I've said this in many videos, and I'm gonna say it again. I don't think the Banished are the main villains. I think they're a fake front. I think they're gonna have an even bigger villain. So there's different ways they can do this, right? They could just be like legitimately be like the Banished have taken over the ring, but they're not the main threat. We're fighting both at the same time, you know, like we said. Or the Banished are the main threat and they uncover something on Zeta Halo that then becomes their main threat. Or the main threat could just be Cortana and the Banished are just there to fill in the gap between you and her. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say I don't think that like the Banished are just gonna be like a one-trick pony after Infinite ends. I think that I 100% think that we will kill Escharum, who's the commander, like Atriox's mentor. 100% think that at some point we kill him in Infinite, and then that motivates Atriox to bring the rest of his forces from the Ark, and then we have kind of like a new Human Covenant war breakout in the middle of our thing with Cortana. I think is what's going to happen.
I agree, and when I say that they're not the main villains, I don't mean that they're not a big villain. I think they're going to be an integral part of the future of Halo: The Banished. I genuinely do. I think the Banished are basically the new Covenant, right? They're the new major, threat to humanity. We've got all the background stuff. We've got the Forerunners and their, manipulation from back in the day. We've got Cortana. But I think as a brute force on the front line, the Banished are going to be there non-stop now, which is good. I like the aesthetic of the Banished. I like the idea. I like the way that they were formed. I think their story is fantastic. But I don't think they're the main villain. I think Cortana, I think maybe this... Harbinger of Truth has something to do with it, but I think there's something, and maybe even the Flood, but either you're fighting them both or the Banished are going to uncover something on Zeta Halo that brings forward the main villain. I think that's my final story guess.
Yeah, that would make total sense too. There's so many different things going on in the Halo universe at this point in time that it would not surprise me if that happened.
Exactly. So that's our predictions and our guesses. I want people to go back and look at this video once we've played the game through, because I wonder how many we've got right.
We are.
Yeah, we're completely wrong the whole way through. That would be hilarious. Tomorrow, we're going to be playing some Halo Infinite live.
Yes.
And I literally can't believe I've just said that out loud. Get excited, guys. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm going to be live when I play it. I've played through all the Halos now so far, apart from Halo Wars 1 and 2, which I will probably do after Halo Infinite, let's be honest. Especially the gap between finishing Halo Infinite and the co-op coming out. I think I'll fill that gap with some Halo Wars every now and again. I think that's a great idea. Probably on live stream, having some fun, stuff like that. But other than that, that's our predictions. Get hyped. We are in the Halo season. Mark, any last words before we leave?
No, I'm sad I have to work on launch day, but I'm still going to play it in the morning.
There you go. We're still going to play it. It's still going to be a ton of fun. Members, you're beautiful. You're amazing. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. I'm so excited to discuss all the Halo story in the private Discord. The guardsmen and officers get put into a private Discord. If you want to be a member, join button down below. Also, don't forget, my merch is now live. Go and check it out. It is limited, and it's selling quick. There's not much left, and if you do buy something, you get a personalized video sent by yours truly, so definitely go and check that out. Links down below to all my socials, including the 2 different YouTube channels, OriginalHuman Geek, OriginalAdventures. Check them both out. Other than that, I will see you tomorrow when we are live playing Halo Infinite. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. All right, Mark, take it easy. Goodbye, everyone. Love you all. Goodbye.